tell me when we're ready. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is John Horan, and I serve as the chairman of the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners. On behalf of my colleagues on the County Commission, I want you to know that this county is blessed with excellent emergency management personnel, law enforcement, public health professionals, education professionals, and first responders. And they've been closely monitoring, as I'm sure you have as well, the path and the intensity of Hurricane Irma, and we are ready. In order to prepare our citizens for this storm, our Emergency Operations Center has been staffed since Labor Day and will continue operations into next week. We strongly encourage our residents to prepare their homes, their businesses, to prepare their families and also their employees for what may be a Category 3 impact of a hurricane on Seminole County. For those of you who are looking right now, a Category 3 hurricane has winds of 111 to 129 miles per hour. Our citizen information line is ready to take your storm-related calls at 407-665-0000 today from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Again, that number for storm-related calls is 407-665-0000. Be careful, of course, yourself, but also be mindful of your neighbors. If you know of a neighbor who is in need, has special needs, we do have special needs shelters. If they're in a mobile home, on a ventilator, or something of that nature, don't hesitate to call. We'll check that out. The Citizens Information Line will shift to 24/7 operations tomorrow and also for the duration of the storm. So 8 to 8 today, but we'll go on 24 hours tomorrow. Our business hotline has also been activated. Seminole County businesses may contact 407-665-1839 with storm-related questions relevant to your business. Again, for businesses, that number is 407-665-1839. Residents are also encouraged to visit our website, prepareseminole.org, which I believe we have a sign right over here. Prepareseminole.org for storm-related information such as shelter locations, sandbag operations. Incidentally, you should know that as of the end of yesterday, we had distributed over 200,000 sandbags by yesterday. Special needs registration or other storm updates, you can get information on that at prepareseminole.org. Now I'd like to introduce Mr. Alan Harris. You up next? Alan Harris, who is the manager, the Seminole County Emergency Operations Manager.
Thank you, Chairman. We've been very busy in the Emergency Operations Center and out throughout the community trying to prepare our community for a very devastating hurricane, much larger than what we experienced in 2004. We are not taking this lightly. We've been pushing forward even on Labor Day, working and continuing to work throughout the week. We are predicting, although there are a lot of models out there, we are planning and preparing for at least a Category 3, possibly Category 4 hurricane in Seminole County. We will continue that until the storm is passed. We want to look at the worst case scenario. We're hoping for the best, but we are preparing for the worst. Our level of activation is full in the EOC. We have all support agencies, law enforcement, fire rescue, public works, our nonprofit organizations actively engaged. Our sandbag operations, as the chairman said, is now 250,000 sandbags being given out at 11 different locations. That being said, sandbags are going very, very quickly, and we may run out of sandbags, but the sandbag locations will remain open. Citizens can still go to those locations. Go to the Prepare Seminole website to find out those locations that will remain open. If you have sandbags that need to be filled, or if you have other types of bags, and I know this has happened in a couple other counties, you are welcome to bring those bags to the sandbag operations and fill those bags. We have 7 shelters on standby. Of those shelters, those are slated to open tomorrow. Of those shelters, we have 3 that are persons with special needs shelters, medically enhanced shelters, and director for the health department will talk about that in just a few minutes, and 4 general population shelters. Of those shelters, 2 of the shelters are pet friendly. That does not mean that we cannot enhance those numbers. We are prepared for additional shelters if capacity is reached at any shelter. So there additional pet-friendly shelters can be added, additional persons with special needs shelters. But those are the phase 1 shelters. Those are the shelters that we are going to open tomorrow initially. As we start to see the capacities grow, we will know when we need to open up additional shelters. We've been asked by the state of Florida to serve as a host shelter tonight for evacuees that are trying to evacuate from South Florida and get stuck on the road. Holy Cross Lutheran Church has graciously offered to serve as a host shelter, and they are in Lake Mary, right off of Lake Mary Drive. They will serve as a host shelter tonight, staffed by the American Red Cross. Again, that is a shelter for evacuees from South Florida that are stuck on the roadway and they have to get off of the roadway. Each county in the state of Florida is asked to open up 1 shelter for those individuals. We are very happy and gracious that Holy Cross Lutheran is able to offer that service to us. Once that shelter is closed tomorrow, anyone that wants to remain in Seminole County can go to one of those other shelters I mentioned earlier, and we will open those shelters simultaneously with the closing of Holy Cross Lutheran Church. Today we closed parks and libraries at 12 noon in preparation for the storm. Agencies and staff that work out there are all getting their areas ready for the storm, as well as the adoption section for the animal services, so animal services can get ready. Emergency calls for animal services will remain open throughout the day today, and we will close on Saturday and Sunday all other county services. Again, our Prepare Seminole website is up with lots of different information on how to get all types of services, what types of services we provide. There have been some questions about evacuation zones. The governor has talked numerous times about evacuation zones. In Seminole County, we do not have evacuation zones. Evacuation zones are for coastal communities. So there are no evacuation zones for an inland county. Although there are places that we will, and people that we will ask to evacuate tomorrow. Those include mobile homes, manufactured homes, individuals with special needs that need to go to a shelter. We will make, of course, voluntary evacuations for those individuals if they need to go. If you are thinking about evacuating in the state of Florida, we have a model, and that is evacuate tens of miles. Do not evacuate hundreds of miles, and you can see why that is the case. Interstate 75, the Turnpike, Interstate 95 have all experienced very, very long delays, hours and hours just to get through certain sections. So if you can evacuate tens of miles, if you live in a mobile home or a manufactured home, move to a friend or family member's house with this concrete or masonry block. If you have no other place to go, think about going to an emergency shelter. Remember, emergency shelters are lifeboats. They are not cruise ships. We provide space, we provide some food, but that is it. So bring bedding, bring clothing, and if you have any questions about other things that you should bring to a shelter, please feel free to contact our Citizens Information Hotline. Sure.
Thank you, Alan, and good afternoon, everybody. It's, by now we've all seen media coverage, and we see press conferences just like this occurring around the state. And one of the things that's unique is we are all saying the exact same thing. We're talking about our partnership and our preparation to face a storm like this, but we all recognize that this is not good for us here in Central Florida. When you look at the entire history of the Office of Sheriff, one of the unique things about the Office of Sheriff is to protect people's lives. And most of the time they associate this office with crime fighting and those more traditional law enforcement expectations. But I'm telling you now, there's been no greater, more significant challenge to quality of life and safety of our citizens in Seminole County than this storm that is potentially coming through. As the sheriff and a husband and a dad, I will tell you that my family will be evacuating our home. I encourage each person to make whatever decisions are right for you and your family, but to take this storm extremely serious. You know, it's one of the things that we get questions about quite a bit is there going to be a curfew? We have not made a determination on that and will not make one today. If we feel that there's a need for a curfew, it will be a direct association to public safety and protecting people, but that decision will not be made until tomorrow sometime. Those individuals that are out there that are going to remain in their homes with their families, I think it's important to provide some safety tips for you who are deciding to rough the storm out there. One is know the structure of your home right now, and some may not understand that, but you know, mobile or manufactured homes, Alan spoke about there briefly. You want to look at the construction of your home, whether it's concrete block or wood frame structures, to make a determination on whether or not it's safe for you to remain there. Obviously, the concrete block structures are rated at a much higher rate and provide a greater level of protection against high force winds. If you live in apartment complexes or high-rise areas, know that the wind, the higher you go, has a greater impact than the lower you are. So if you're in a two-story home, the safest place is going to be towards the center of the home, away from those areas of vulnerability, whether it's a roof, that we've seen roofs completely taken off homes, whether it's windows. Many windows that were manufactured prior to 1996 are not manufactured with a high wind rating. So you want to stay away from those windows, especially if you're living in an older home that has older windows. And you hear about going into that room in the center, away from the windows, and that's the greatest level of protection that you're going to have. As we drive through the communities, we want people to take also extremely serious the yard items that are in people's yards. You may be sitting there wondering whether or not you need to take that treadmill or that exercise bike off your back porch. You need to move those into an extremely secure area. What happens is the wind will pick those things up and they become projectiles. So those are likely the things that will blow around in the neighborhood and go through either your windows or your neighbor's windows, and obviously present significant damage to property, but more importantly, potentially damage to people. So you want to be aware of that. We're also monitoring the low-lying areas or potential flood zones, which we know here in Seminole County that typically the flood comes in after the storm. We've had experiences that in the past where 5 to 7 days after the storm has passed. So I think it's important for each person, especially if you're a newer resident in Seminole County, to get the information that you need about your area. And we have a hotline. The Citizens Information Hotline is 407-665-0000 to provide some additional information on that. When the wind speeds reach around 45 to 55 miles per hour, deputy sheriffs will not be responding to routine calls for service. And the fire chief was talking about this yesterday with his organization as well. Well, what does that mean? That means that our commanders in the field will evaluate on a case-by-case basis to determine whether or not it is safe for deputy sheriffs to respond. Some of the things that will be taken into consideration is the nature of the call and whether or not we can safely get out there to provide immediate service to our citizens. I will say this, in the heat of the storm, it's not the time to call law enforcement for a barking dog. I say that, and it seems pretty much common sense, but each year we find ourselves with individuals that are making more routine calls for service. Again, call us when there is a need of significant problems in the area, or if you just want us to be informed about something that you don't need immediate response. That's what we're here for. Our traffic in Seminole County appears to be running rather smoothly considering the evacuation from South Florida and from some coastal areas, so we have no concerns on our roadways, whether it's our major thoroughfares, either Interstate 4 or 417. We think that may change as people start to listened to the warnings of public officials on the storm. We would ask that if you do decide to evacuate, do not wait until the last moment. The worst scenario to be in is stuck somewhere on the roadway in traffic with your vehicle and your family when the storm hits us the hardest. So if you're going to make those decisions to get out of the area, please make those plans early and get on the road as quickly as you can. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Donna Walsh, the health officer with the health department here in Seminole County. And I just want to go over a couple of things that to keep in mind to stay healthy during this critical time. As Alan Harris mentioned, there will be special needs shelters opening here within the next day. Those shelters will be open tomorrow. There's 3 of them, and they are located at our Seminole County Public School sites, those being Highlands Elementary, Bentley Elementary, and Lair Elementary schools. The information on the locations of those schools can be found at prepareseminole.org, as well as the other information mentioned earlier. We would ask that we are receiving a number of folks who are registering here in the last few days, and so we would ask that you be patient as you arrive to these shelters. There will be a high number of anticipated people arriving, and it does take a little bit of time for our nurses and other public health professionals to check you in and to get you situated. Before coming to the shelter, we also ask that you make sure that if you are on medications, if you have any medical equipment, that you bring those along with you. It's very important that you go ahead and get prescriptions filled before the storm arrives here, because during the storm and maybe several days afterwards, you may not have access to a pharmacy to get those medications filled. We do have the capacity at the shelters to do some emergency prescription medication fills with agreements we have with local pharmacies, and we do have a limited supply of very basic medications at the shelter. But again, we encourage you to get your own prescriptions filled before arriving. We also have asked that, as in the past, that if you have a caregiver at home, that caregiver needs to be present with you when you arrive to the shelter and during your stay at the shelter. That's very important. The other is if you have pets and you have special needs as well. One of the shelters is a pet-friendly special needs shelter, and that's at Bentley. So you are allowed to bring your pets with you. The pets are held in a separate area from folks who stay in the shelters, but you certainly can visit. Whether you have pre-registered for special needs shelters or you arrive the day that you decide that you want to come, we will certainly accept you. So the special needs shelters are open to those who have pre-registered, as well as those who may think, at the last minute that they really feel that they need to be in one. So, as I mentioned before, we do have professional medical staff there, nurses. Some of the shelters are staffed with medical doctors, and we also have a number of our public health professionals who are staffing those shelters. Besides your medications and medical equipment, it's also important that you bring any foods if you have a special diet. Food service at the schools will be providing meals. However, if you do have a special diet, again, important to bring those food items with you, along with any snacks that would offer you comfort. So certainly you can bring that in addition. Personal hygiene items and sleeping items. Everyone who arrives at the shelter will be provided a cot. However, if you have a pillow you prefer, blankets and so forth, we would again encourage you to bring those comfort items along with you, along with any personal hygiene items such as toothbrushes, toothpaste, and so forth. Any extra clothing, very possible that you might be in the shelter for a few days. As the sheriff mentioned, if the weather is severe, certainly we will not be allowing you to go out on the roads during the high winds. So be prepared to stay for at least 2 or 3 days and bring a change of clothes and so forth if you might be there for a few days with us. Also, you can bring some important paperwork with you. Again, not knowing what the status of your home might be while you're sheltering, please remember to bring the important paperwork along with. Some other public health tips is in the event that you do stay home and your power goes out. I know a number of folks have purchased generators. Every time we experience an emergency such as this, we often get reports of carbon monoxide poisoning. So please be very careful when operating your generators. Be mindful of making sure the exhaust is outside. Do not, for instance, even run your vehicle inside a garage with the garage door down. That carbon monoxide can kill you. So it's very important that you be mindful of the directions in operating your generators. The other, of course, is food safety. Again, in the event that power is lost, your refrigerated food can last for up to 4 hours. However, if you feel that the food is not safe, our philosophy is always, when in doubt, throw it out. It's not worth getting sick over. We have encouraged folks to prepare by buying bottled water and non-perishable goods in the event that you do lose power. For instance, your water from your faucets, very adequate, to provide fluid for you. However, if power goes out, oftentimes even your public utilities, not safe. There'll be boil water notices out, depending on the water, if the water floods the area, and if power doesn't generate the stations. So the bottled water is good in those events, but you will receive those boil water notices through Seminole.org. So we would ask that everybody, as mentioned before, be mindful of your neighbors, be mindful of those who you're sheltering with. It's a difficult time, it's a stressful time, and just try to encourage each other and be helpful to each other. We are certainly available, our contact information and all of this information I went over today and others through prepareseminole.org. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amy Lockhart. I'm chairman of the Seminole County School Board. I think the latest information that you all need to know about Seminole County Schools is that we have decided to remain closed through Tuesday, September 12th. We will be making determinations about future closings on a day-to-day basis. Please stay tuned to local media and to prepareseminole.org for any sorts of updates. We know with the impacts of this storm that the way that we usually communicate with our community may not be available to us. We know we have a lot of people following us on social media, and that's fabulous. We have a call out, we do a lot of blast emails, but in the event that we lose the ability to communicate in that way, we're going to ask you to rely on local media for our updates. Staying closed on Tuesday, September 12th gives us several opportunities. First, for our families and for our staff, it provides them an extra day to be at their homes and to make assessments of the damages that they may have incurred. And then it also allows us as a school district to do damage assessments and to determine when and how we'll be able to reopen schools and the work that will be necessary to get us all back online. Our primary focus at the school district right now is the safety and security of our students and our staff, and we are making all of those decisions in conjunction with the Sheriff's Office and Emergency Operations. And I'd just like to take a personal note. On behalf of the entire school board, we are so proud of our entire team. We have bus drivers who are going to be helping to transport folks to shelters. We have our restaurant workers from our cafeterias who are going to be helping to serve food in those shelters. The leadership team that Dr. Griffin, our superintendent, has put together has done a tremendous job of stepping up to the plate and serving in an additional role. So I just want to say thank you to them on behalf of the board. The sheriff started his comments talking about partnerships, and so I'm going to finish up mine talking about partnerships too. It is so important for this community to understand that you have a school district that is working hand in hand, collaboratively with county government, with the sheriff's office, and with emergency management. We make no decisions in a vacuum on our own. We rely on the experts in public safety to help us make our decisions. So when you hear information coming out from us, please know that it's been in concert with the folks who are the experts in the field. We wish everyone the very best of luck. We keep you all in our thoughts and prayers as the storm approaches. We wish everyone safe harbor over the course of the next few days. And again, please stay tuned to social media and local media sources. Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, Alan, you mentioned that the shelters are going to open tomorrow. Do you have a timing on that yet?
We're anticipating around the noon time period, but we want a little bit of flexibility with that, so we'll make that announcement first thing in the morning. Again, we need to have that discussion with the school board and the sheriff's office. We have most of the assets out there. The The crews that I talked about earlier, the Parks and Leisure Services, while they're also making sure that the parks and libraries are closed, they immediately go from there, once they're closed, to the shelters, and they start setting up the shelters. Of course, shelters are in schools, so we clear the dormitory area, which is normally a dining room or a classroom, and then start to make that available for individuals the next day. Registration, signage, first aid, all those types of supplies have to be brought in.
And just so I'm clear, and so the people who are watching perhaps online right now are clear, I was at Lyman earlier today and I asked whether there were cots or anything available like that, and I was told there are not, that it's basically blankets on the floor, air mattresses. Ms. Walsh, I believe you mentioned cots. Is that just for the special needs shelters?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, so
I wanted to make sure I made that clarification so people know exactly, when they're going to these shelters, it's camping.
Sure. So for general population shelters, we provide space on the floor, a hardened structure. We have retrofitted all of the schools that we use as emergency shelters with hardened windows, hardened doors, shutter systems. There's some generator capacity, not enough to run everything, but some generator capacity at each of the general population shelters. Provide 3 meals a day, and that's it for the general population shelter. So if you can bring airbags, clothing, as Donna mentioned, toiletry items, anything that you would need to do to bring if you went on a camping trip. For the special needs shelters, those are a little bit more enhanced, so we provide some medical services, wheelchairs, and other types of devices, different types of cots, cots that move up and down, and so those are a little bit better equipped, more enhanced medical services.
That's what I believed as well. I just wanted to make sure because there can be some confusion, because right now everybody's kind of doing the whirling dervish. Where do I go and what do I do? And I wanted to make sure that point was clear.
And it's a good question, and some people have called and said, I don't have any special need, but I'd like to go to a special need shelter. That is not what we suggest. In fact, we would push those individuals to go to a general population shelter. Special needs shelters are really for people with medical needs. Everybody else needs to go to a general population shelter.
And
What
so everybody's
shelters?
clear. I'm sorry.
What shelters are the ones that are the medical shelters? I don't think I heard that
Sure.
listed.
Bentley Elementary School, Highlands Elementary School, and Lair Elementary School.
Layer?
And they are also on our website at prepareseminole.org. Bentley is a pet-friendly shelter.
And on the pet friendly, again, just for clarification, you're not going to be, Fido's not going to be next to you in the cafeteria where everybody's sleeping, crated in another part of the shelter. You can go visit your animal, but it's not going to be, fur flying everywhere while people are trying to sleep.
So
correct?
pet-friendly shelters, the pets are in the same complex as the individual, but they are in a different air vac or air-conditioned system, so that if there are any allergies in the other part of the shelter, there isn't any issue with that. We ask that people, when they bring their pets, that they bring their pet supplies as well, medical records, a crate, a favorite toy of the animal, and food. We will have some services there for the pets, but if you have those, please bring them. Any questions? Okay, well, thank you all very much.